Ah, good old NXT, the Marmite of professional wrestling. For those of you who don't know what Marmite is, it is a British savoury food spread based on yeast extract invented by German scientist Justus von Liebig. It has the tagline, you either love it or you hate it. Go look it up if you want to. Thank you. A lot of the wrestling world have a love-hate relationship with NXT, and with a brand that has seen so many direction changes and styles implemented, it's easy to see why. NXT definitely encapsulates the phrase, you can't please everyone. From the bizarre conceptual game show which buried upcoming talent, to the birth of stars such as Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, to the unassailable heights of Black and Gold, and then crumbling down to the ludicrous NXT 2.0 iteration, it's been quite a journey for WWE's third brand. But where are we now? Are they developmental? Is it more Black and Gold or 2.0? And with the revolving door of talent due to call-ups and new signings, what does the future hold? Stick around, we're going to talk about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to A.I.W, the Artificial Intelligence Wrestling Show, where the insight is deep thanks to a little help from a digital friend. The following podcast is a triple threat match scheduled for however many hours. Introducing first, from Mount Olympus, the Honorary Zeus! Next, from the cave at the end of time, Kronus the Bear! And their opponent, from the internet, A.I.W!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to A.I.W. Thank you, Joe, for that wonderful intro as always. I am the Honorary Zeus.
I'm Kronus the Bear.
And today we are talking about our beloved NXT. I'm excited for this one, Kronus. I am.
Yeah, you're obviously more ear to the ground in NXT than I am, but I do enjoy it. It's very good.
Yeah, I think in particular with the current NXT, something I do watch regularly and do enjoy most of the time. But I think NXT, it's been on quite a journey, hasn't it? In terms of where it started, what it became, the various things it's become to where it is now. But yeah, we're going to talk about where NXT started, what we know from when it started. We're going to talk about the legendary Black and Gold era. We'll touch on how NXT really has kind of given us some huge stars via the FCW developmental into NXT. We'll touch on NXT 2.0. And we'll just talk about how it's doing now with where it is with its, in-ring work, developmental, the women's division, which is obviously very talked about, the championships, and the collaboration with TNA, and how we think the recent integration with the main roster has transpired compared to in previous years. So NXT, it sort of began in 2010 as a game show, if we're getting that right. Now, I didn't watch this game show.
No, I didn't either.
And who would blame us? But I think I mentioned this to you privately. I bet it sounded like a cool idea to them in the planning stages. But from what I have seen of it, it was like a hybrid game show blending like scripted live events with reality TV. Wrestlers would have to perform tasks to kind of win, and it was definitely something we hadn't seen in wrestling before. And especially when you look at who was involved in those segments and what they became. I think Wade Barrett was a winner of one of the seasons. Obviously, Bray Wyatt as Husky Harris was involved.
Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, yeah. incredible. Curtis Axel, not that they're in the same league, but just a name I mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think it was, when it aired, it was on network television or cable television, and then it kind of went on to the WWE network when that became a thing. And thankfully, I think this was only short-lived for a couple of years, wasn't it? Because
So, yeah, a couple of seasons.
when I watch it, famously, Eli Cottonwood with the mustache promo, which I've only come across that because, you know, I watch a lot of rankings videos on YouTube from other creators, and whenever I see a top 10 worst promos one, it's usually in that list. If you haven't seen it, please, everyone listening, YouTube Eli Cottonwood mustache. Just put that into YouTube. Essentially, his challenge was to do a promo about the word mustache, and it's definitely something. It just kind of felt like they were embarrassing. I don't know what they were trying to gain, like whether they were trying to, like, you know, keep them on their toes for like improv and things like that. But anyway, that came and went, and we went into the developmental part in 2012, where NXT sort of took the place of what was FCW. And we all know a lot of great names came from FCW. Yeah, a lot of big names. And then that's when it started to kind of focus on the wrestling aspect. And that sort of transitioned into what we know as Black and Gold. Now, Black and Gold, for me, I think is probably the best wrestling product I've ever watched. Still to this day. In terms of when it was at its height, you know, when WWE was recruiting from the indies, and you had that group of like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Adam Cole.
It was stacked.
Yeah, it was. And it was just a conveyor belt of incredible talent, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And it introduced me to a lot of wrestlers who I'd never heard of. Aleister Black, for example. I wasn't really, I wasn't aware or watching the indies at that point. I'd heard of certain people. I'd heard of Finn Balor and Bullet Club. I'd heard of Samoa Joe, but I hadn't heard of like Tommy End, Aleister Black, etc.
Yeah.
And that was Triple H's thing, wasn't it?
His baby, yeah.
It was his baby.
Like proto version of what we're seeing on the main today.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that Black and Gold, it had its audience. I would say it had a very similar audience to what A.I.W has now.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think a lot of people who are very into A.I.W style were probably massively into Black and Gold and not into main roster, which I think I probably fell into that category, because how many times did we see, you know, when they had WWE pay-per-views on the Sunday, and then you would have the NXT takeover the night before?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, the takeover was always better than whatever Vince was putting on the following night.
Yeah, it was a good time for NXT, bad for the main. But
Yeah, even the WrestleMania weekends.
yeah,
Because
blowing them out of the water.
yeah, because WrestleMania from 2012 to, God, I don't know. I think there was probably a couple of WrestleManias from 2012 to 2022 that were actually any good. A lot of them were just too long, nothing that important, underwhelming matches, strange booking. You know, WrestleMania 32, for example, 7 hours long, and basically nothing happened on that show. But you could always rely on takeovers. And, you know, I've seen so many people ranking their favorite NXT takeovers, and even the one they rank at the bottom, they say, this is still amazing.
Yeah.
It's just not as amazing as number 1, for example. And the reason I think I like Black and Gold so much retrospectively is because I look at a lot of where the people who are now, who made Black and Gold. So you look at Bayley, she's women's champion on main roster. You look at who was Sasha Banks, Mercedes, now in A.I.W. She's very successful. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, obviously major stars, the main roster. You had Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns come through FCW.
Neville.
Pardon?
Well, Neville or Pac.
Yeah, Pac. Yeah, he was one of was he like the 4th NXT champion or something?
Yeah, he was early on.
Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
He was an NXT champion with his Bo Leave gimmick.
Yes.
Wade Barrett, he was, in the game show era. He went on to be quite successful in the Nexus, and now he's a great commentator. So it's nice to see so many of the people who made NXT what it was still doing well. Even Samoa Joe, he was AEW World Champion until recently. So Black and Gold, we've seen so many classic matches, haven't we? I mean, my personal favorite of all time. I mean, my top 5, no, sorry, my top 3 NXT Black and Gold matches all involve Johnny Gargano. I think for me, yeah, he is. Although he wasn't ever NXT champion, was he? Or was he? Was he?
I think so.
He had a feud with Adam Cole quite late on, but I can't remember if he actually won it. But yeah, Johnny Gargano versus Andrade. I think it was TakeOver. Where was it? I think it was the one they did on Royal Rumble weekend.
Yeah.
My favorite match by far, along with 2 of his epic rivalry with Tommaso Ciampa, who I think was my favorite NXT champion.
Yeah, I really liked tag match with him and just said his name.
Tommaso Ciampa. Oh, DIY. Yeah.
DIY versus FTR.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah, that the 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably one of the best tag team matches we've ever seen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100% up there. As well, from probably a bit earlier than that, when Shinsuke first came to NXT.
Yeah.
I think he had Sami Zayn for his first match.
Yeah.
Absolute banger.
It was incredible, and it was wrestling that I hadn't seen before because I wasn't watching the indies, and I'd watched a bit of TNA in the mid-2000s, but not enough to get my teeth into. So it was new to me, and I was like, me and my friend would watch it every, because it was on the network, wasn't it? And every Thursday we'd get home from work and we'd watch it, and it was only an hour long, wasn't it, the shows?
Digestible, yeah.
Yeah. And it just became this show where you could always rely on them to recruit the right people. The storylines are always great. The champions were great. It was just untouchable.
Yeah, it was something special. Definitely.
And then AEW came and ruined it. I mean that in the best way possible. No, I think Vince obviously ruined what Triple H was building.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate.
Yeah, and I think the arrival of AEW gave certain wrestlers that perfect escape route from the clutches of Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So after Black and Gold, we welcomed, well, I guess be NXT 2.0 at that time, wouldn't it? 2021. So this was a drastic shift. It went from Black and Gold to every other color you could imagine. Vibrant logos, strange storylines, a really mixed roster of talent where you had, I think you had Dolph Ziggler, you had Giovanni Vinci, Eli Drake had come in as LA Knight, but it was just, oh god, it was bad. I think it's the best word I can use to describe NXT 2.0.
Yeah, it was almost like it was being forced.
Yeah.
Not upon us, but just in general. And the logo really made me think of, Art Attack.
Yeah, Art Attack, yeah.
Or the art program.
I'll put something on the screen for our American viewers. Yeah, it was an eyesore, wasn't it? And
yeah,
a lot of people were just angry because, it's not Black and Gold anymore. And I was one of those people. And it just felt to me like Vince wanted to kill what Triple H had created. Because
NXT, a strange move, yeah.
Yeah, because NXT 2.0, I believe, was a Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis move. So I think I don't think Shawn Michaels was involved at this point. So we had NXT 2.0, and that's when I stopped watching. I think you and I you and I watched the WrestleMania where Cody came back, 38. I think you and I watched that Stand and Deliver together, and it was okay. You had, Dolph Ziggler's Braun Breaker winning the title from Dolph Ziggler. I think you had Mandy Rose as women's champion, and I think by then you could sort of, it was still a bit kind of but you could sort of see a different direction. And then we have where we are now with Mr. Shawn Michaels in charge. Chef Shawn, always cooking. So, in a word, NXT right now, I think is pretty great. I will go through the reasons why I think that's pretty great. Kronus, and what you've seen over the last, say, 12 months of NXT, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, really good. I think a lot like A.I.W, they tend to knock it out of the park still. They're, not takeovers anymore. Now sort of own named premium live events.
Yeah.
They're always fantastic, I've found, especially over the last 12 months. I sort of dip in and out of TV, but every time I seem to dip back in, there seems to be someone new there.
Yeah.
So they're definitely keeping it going.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point with the premium live events. I also like that they kind of recycle old WWE pay-per-view names.
Yeah, some WCW as well.
Yeah, so we got Great American Bash tomorrow, which is they're using it as like a weekly themed show. Great American Bash week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
No Mercy, it was nice to see.
Yep.
Always had a thing for No Mercy, probably because of the video game, but No Mercy was always a favorite of mine. I'd love to see something like Unforgiven come back.
Yeah.
Armageddon. But yeah, I think NXT, especially their last show, Heatwave, I think it was probably the best in-ring they've done since Black and Gold.
Yeah. That was an ECW pay-per-view.
Yes. Yeah, it was Heatwave, wasn't it? Yeah. The one they did before that, Battleground, in the Apex UFC one, I thought was it was okay, but I think it just didn't, the experiment kind of didn't work. But on the whole, you're right. You can always count on certain match types being bangers. So NXT now has kind of got this reputation. So for example, if there's a North American title match, historically, it's going to be a banger because they've always had proper workhorse North American champions. They had Wesley for the longest time.
Yeah.
Wesley's great. Probably one of the most consistent they've had on that roster. But yeah, I think NXT at the moment is in a really good place. And there's various things I like about NXT currently. And I'm going to cut them some slack as well, because I thought leading up to WrestleMania, which I think is where you and I were watching pretty consistently.
Yeah.
It was knocking it out of the park because they had so much going on. And then after WrestleMania, we had the draft and they lost a big pool of talent. They
did, but it had to happen.
Yeah. It's had to be expected. They lost, Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, boom, 3 best workers in the entire place. They lost Blair Davenport, they lost Tiffany Stratton, they lost Kiana James, they lost Lyra Valkyria, who was women's champion. So they lost 2 women's champions and 2 world champions, plus 3 or 4 other immense talents.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, damn, that's a big dent in their talent pool. How are they going to cope with that? And it felt for a bit like they were struggling. But just before Dragunov got called up, we crowned Trick Williams as NXT champion. And he, I think, has probably been one of the fastest rising stars I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's been meteoric.
Because he went from literally just being Carmelo Hayes' hype man and nothing else, to NXT champion in the space of 12 months, if less than that.
Yeah, with a really, really good story to boot.
Yeah, really good story. I think obviously he's still learning. He's still green. He's young. He's very charismatic. He's very over with the crowd. He's very over on social media. He's a very likable guy. And I think in ring, you can see him getting better. You can see him adopting his moveset. Obviously, he's taken some things from Booker T, which is great. But someone like Trick, and one of the things I really like about NXT is, for all its faults, which it's had, is seeing that development of talent over time.
Yeah.
Seeing someone go from a valet to a world champion.
Yeah, it's great.
That journey is fantastic. And there's lots of people in there at the moment that I'm really enjoying watching develop. Obafemi, for example. Who the hell is this guy?
Out of nowhere.
I mean, I am a
gets it.
proud Oberfeminist. And I pity the fool who isn't a proud Oberfeminist. This guy's insane. Like, he came out of nowhere, and he was part of the breakout tournament. And I watched that breakout tournament, and there were two guys after the first match I thought, wow. And that was Obafemi and Tavian Heights, who I think is now part of No Quarter Catch Crew. But I'm glad to see Tavian on TV because I thought he looked really good. And Obafemi, he kind of just turned up, didn't he? He won the breakout tournament, killed everyone, and he cashed in his breakout tournament contract on the mid-card title. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared because it's this guy, it's Obafemi. Everyone loves him. And ever since then, he has just been so consistent for someone who is still green. Imagine what he's going to be like as like a 10-year veteran.
It's just amazing. Potential is unlimited.
And he can talk. He's intimidating. His presence, or what do the kids say these days? Aura.
Yeah.
His aura is amazing. He's really over. His entrance always gets a pop. He's got that kind of like that big sort of, driving tribal entrance.
Yeah. Groovy.
And he's a prime example of watching somebody develop. But with him, it felt like he just turned up and he was already great. And it's like, come on, I want to watch you develop, man. He's like, no, I ain't got time for that.
Oh, you still get to watch him develop. He's just going to get better.
Well, yeah. I wonder if he's going to do a Keith Lee and hold both titles, because I can't see him losing anytime soon.
Yeah, they should definitely look at something like that. Definitely some sort of streak.
Would like him to squash Ethan Page. It would be funny. But yeah, I think the talent pool that the direction that NXT is going in, especially with the North American division, is fantastic. I mentioned Wesley earlier. I wonder what's next for someone like him, because I think he's done it all in NXT. He's the longest North American champion of all time. He's put on consistent matches. Would you like to see him on the main roster?
Yeah, but again, I don't really know where he'd fit in there at the moment.
Well, he's doing stuff with his old buddies in TNA at the moment, the Rascals.
Yeah.
They had a great 6-man tag match last week on NXT.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he'll just kind of sit in that kind of TNA collaboration bubble for a bit.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, the Rascals were brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's good times having them back together.
We talked about Trick Williams, and we talked about how when the call-ups happened, what were they going to do? And they went with Trick Williams, who beat Dragunov, which is a big thing because Dragunov was an absolute beast.
Yeah.
So we thought to ourselves, what is the main event scene going to look like? Because, a main event scene full of green talent probably isn't going to work as well. So then we get the introduction of people like Shawn Spears and Ethan Page, who kind of all of a sudden just arrive.
Yeah.
And, they bring with them, Shawn Spears probably not going to be a world champion, but they bring with them a wealth of experience. And, they've been working as like a four-way, haven't they? We've had Shawn Spears, Ethan Page, Trick Williams, and the Javon Evans, Jay Malachi from the Indies. And I think it's actually been a really good dynamic. So
yeah, I think so.
you remember their 4-way from Heatwave, the main event of the last show where Ethan Page
really
won the
great.
title. Incredible stuff. I think Javon Evans is going to be a massive star.
He's really entertaining.
Yeah, he is really entertaining. He just does things that no one else is doing at the moment.
Yeah, the innovation is great.
Yeah, it's and every time something like this happens, and we get pay-per-views like Heatwave, and we get talent like Javon Evans, and we mix that with experience from other companies, you know, it reminds me of Black and Gold in a way, like format-wise.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Because they used to just hire the NIL program, which was hiring athletes, which I think they did with the women. You can see that in the women's division. You know, the style, you can see it's like a very athletic background, gymnastics, etc.
Yeah.
But I think more recently, and we're going to talk about some of these incomings in the women's division in a moment. God help that division. There seems to now be more of a focus on getting talent from existing wrestling pools elsewhere. So they've brought in Lexis King, they've brought in Ethan Page, Shawn Spears, kind of, you know, people who just, you know, weren't happy or weren't being used in A.I.W, come to NXT, get TV time, everyone's happy. And, you know, some of them bring experience, and that's going to help. You know, you can imagine the experience of someone like Shawn Spears talking to Javon Evans, what he can learn, etc.
Yeah.
So all that backstage stuff that we're not going to hear about. But yeah, I think it's going in a good direction, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next, especially with this TNA partnership. The likes of Joe Hendry.
I mean, I can see him main roster, main event. He's really that good.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Joe Hendry. I mean, as soon as his contract's up, he's WWE bound, 100%. And I can see WWE kind of using NXT for TNA talent to come in. So let's see how popular they get in NXT. And if we don't like them, then TNA can keep them. It's like a try before you buy thing, isn't it? With people like Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace.
Didn't even think to look at it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you know, WWE's very business, isn't it? It's not going to do anything that doesn't benefit them.
Yeah.
But I think Joe Hendry and Jordan Grace are firm WWE signings when their contracts are up.
Yeah, both brilliant.
But I think you're right with Joe Hendry. I can see him being signed. I can probably see him doing NXT for a little bit. Give him like an NXT title run. But yeah, main roster, he will be fine. He's perfect for the audience of the main roster. You know, the main roster loves singing. Look at Seth Rollins' theme tune, which I'm a bit bored of now, but they loved singing Shinsuke Nakamura's theme tune, Sami Zayn's theme tune, and
Fandango.
Fandango. Didn't that make the UK charts?
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's more or less where it all sort of started, wasn't it? This more recent spate of theme songs being sung.
I think you might be right, actually, yeah. And I do love that fact. It's in my head now. Spoiler alert, it's not on my top 10 theme songs, but
it is now.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of something, or maybe I'll just put it as an honorable mention. But yeah, where were we? Joe Hendry. I mean, the guy writes songs for a living. He's going to come out. He's going to basically, I reckon he's going to be a more popular Elias. And I mean that in a good way. Because Elias, I thought, had a lot of potential.
I think he wrestled Elias on a British Indie.
Oh, did they have a song contest?
Joe Hendry did have a song.
Yeah.
I think I might have linked it to you.
I'll have to look that up.
You were, watching The Wizard of Oz.
Yes, I did see The Wizard of Oz. It was very good. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. But yeah, Joe Hendry. So yeah, I can see lots of the top TNA talent, and there's probably some we haven't seen come through yet, like, you know, Josh Alexander or Moose or whoever. But yeah, I can see a lot of movement contract-wise between NXT and TNA. Whether we get kind of main roster implications, like AJ Styles doing some TNA stuff, for example, would be nice.
Yeah,
but
that's bound to happen, surely.
Probably benefits TNA way more than it benefits WWE.
Yeah, but it's sentimental.
It is sentimental. Yeah, let's hope that Triple H and Nick Khan can see it in their hearts to let AJ go back to TNA for a bit.
Be nice.
He's not doing anything else, is he?
Not at the moment.
No. Yeah. Good old Alan. So that's the main event scene, how it looks at the moment. We've got Ethan Page as champion. Not really a lot happening at the main event scene. What we're going to talk about next is the women's division. But first, A.I. Jeff. We've got some content from A.I. Jeff. So this channel is not monetized. We don't have any product placement. There is no paid promotion in this video. But we wanted to kind of see what would happen if we were. So what I've done is I've asked A.I. Jeff to create an advert for us. And he has created an advert. And without further ado, here it is.
Are you tired of feeling too enthusiastic about life? Do you long for the mundane, the unremarkable, and the utterly uninteresting? Look no further than the Bland-O-Matic Trade. The Bland-O-Matic Trade is the world's first appliance designed to drain all excitement from your daily routine. Here's how it works.
Press the Med button. Simply push the button and watch as your surroundings transform into a sea of beige. Colors fade and everything becomes slightly less interesting. Blandify your meals. Use the Bland-O-Matic Trade cookbook included to prepare tasteless dishes. Say goodbye to flavor explosions. Say hello to bland satisfaction. Dullify your wardrobe. The Bland-O-Matic Trade clothing steamer removes any hint of style. Wrinkles, more like subtle creases. Boring conversations. Invite friends over for a riveting evening of discussing beige paint swatches.
But wait, there's more. Order now, and we'll throw in the Bland-O-Matic Trade white noise generator. It emits a soothing hum that's scientifically proven to induce mild drowsiness, perfect for insomniacs and anyone seeking a life less lived.
Act now, and we'll also include the Bland-O-Matic Trade Pet Rock. It's like having a pet without the hassle of feeding, walking, or emotional attachment. Plus, it matches your beige decor seamlessly.
So why settle for excitement when you can embrace the ordinary? Call 1-800-BLAND now and order your Bland-O-Matic Trade today. Remember, life is too short for exclamation marks.
Disclaimer. The Bland-O-Matic Trade may cause extreme indifference, loss of enthusiasm, and an inexplicable urge to alphabetize your sock drawer. Use at your own risk. Batteries not included. Satisfaction guaranteed, but not enthusiastically.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Sounds drunk.
That was hilariously depressing. Yeah, pick up your Bland-O-Matic now. Thank you, Jeff.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers, Jeff. Oh my God, where were we? We were going to talk about NXT Women's Wrestling. It's probably my favorite part of NXT and has been for quite a while.
Yeah.
Comparatively. Yeah, comparatively to the main roster, because I think it's not so much the talent, it's the booking, I think, is more impressive.
Yeah, that as well.
If we look at, like you mentioned, just in the depth of the women's roster, there are so many people you can just pick out of that talent pool who you could say they're killing it. They're killing it. You know, Roxanne Perez, was she 22 years old?
Yeah.
2-time NXT champion. Just doesn't have bad matches. I was skeptical when they gave her the heel gimmick because she's, you know, you look at her and you think babyface, you think Bailey Hugger.
Yeah.
And I think it took a while to get used to for me. But now I think she's really killing it.
Yeah, 100% believable.
Yep. And she's had some, you know, good feuds, good matches. Lola Vice, I think she's another one who's really come on leaps and bounds in the past 12 months. Yeah. And, you know, she'll kick your ass, like legitimately.
Yeah, I didn't know straight away that she'd fought MMA.
Yeah, she was in Bellator.
Yeah.
And, you know, it shows because she's got that real kind of fierce work rate to her. And you see her training videos on Twitter and she's just beating the shit out of everything. And she's got that spin kick that looks good. The spinning back fist looks really good.
Yeah.
She's, you know, good submission artist. And again, she's only gonna get better. She's a good talker. She's got a good attitude. I can just see sky's the limit for someone like Lola Vice. Give it a couple of years. And I think NXT as well has done a good job with having, how should we say, relatable characters. If you consider the audience they're targeting.
Yeah.
You remember the feud between Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. Now, obviously, if people like you and me, we might say, oh, it's a bit cringe. But it's relatable, isn't it, to a modern day demographic?
Yeah.
Of like, you know, kind of late teens, early 20s. You know, best friends breaking up and things like that. I think Tatum Paxley's a good example as well. She's kind of playing the role of, you know, weird girl who all the popular kids bully. And that's kind of playing out on television at the moment. That's obviously very relatable and has been for a long time for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And Tatum Paxley in particular, she was off TV for a long time. And then she sort of came back as this character she's playing now, right around the time of when she started interacting with Lyra Valkyria.
Right.
Which I thought was a really good storyline. And yeah, I think the characters they have in the women's division, I think, are very broad, very varied. I like the fact that the women's division has countless storylines that don't involve titles. You can kind of just, you know, they generate heat without having titles involved, which is something the main roster hasn't done properly for a long time.
Yeah, it gives that deep roster a lot to do as well.
Yeah, and how many women's matches do you see on a weekly episode of NXT? It's 3 or 4 sometimes.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of them have meaning. You have, again, a lot of characters like Thea Hale. We love Chase U. Big up Chase U. One of my personal favorite parts of NXT. Thea Hale, she's a very kind of, you know, I find her a very kind of love-hate character. I think she's really great and infectious. Some people find her annoying, but that's just the way of the world.
Yeah, I like it. Great energy.
Yeah, great energy. Again, very young, very inexperienced. She's decent in the ring. And I mean, there's so many names.
Especially after picking up the Kimura as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That feud she had with Tiffany Stratton, I thought she held her own against Tiffany Stratton.
Definitely.
And there's a show called NXT Level Up, which is like, I guess it was the A.I.W Dark kind of version, where it's like the stars of tomorrow. If NXT is the stars of tomorrow, then NXT Level Up is the stars of next week, if you like. And that's where I first laid my eyes on somebody called Sol Ruka.
Yes.
Now, Sol Ruka, when she first kind of debuted as this kind of like surfer gimmick, very athletic, very flexible, I thought to myself, okay, you know, it's a cool thing, but, you know, and for a few weeks I was like, I'm not really sold on it. And then more recently, man, she's incredible.
Yeah.
And
really good.
obviously, I think she has one of the best finishes in the entire company.
It's in my top 10.
Yeah, it's in your top 10. Honorable mention for me. And Sol Ruka has been, I think, a staple of the women's division for a long time now. And she was very influential in that first crowning of the new women's mid-card title, the Women's North American Championship. And I think if any wrestling company needed a women's mid-card title, it was NXT.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you look at the potential of that division. So you've got Kalani Jordan as the champion, who is very, very good. I think she needs some work character-wise. But in ring, she's absolutely fine. I think she'll have banger matches, you know, defending that belt for a long time. You've got Sol Ruka, who's already fought her, as she did at Heatwave. You've got new people coming in, like Jasmine Nix, who's aligned with JCJ. Now, Jasmine Nix is an interesting one because she is a ex-football player.
Interesting.
Or soccer, for people who want to say it incorrectly.
I was going to say, like, real football or...
Yeah. I mean, I'll forever say it's football. I mean, most of the American teams in the MLS have FC in their name. It doesn't stand for soccer club. We'll put it that way. Right. But yeah, she is an ex-football player. So she's come from that background. And that's why, and her Pele kick is amazing. It's like Finn Balor style. And I think she's, you know, she's kind of got a lot of potential. She's got a good presence. She's with JC Jane, who's more experienced, and JC Jane's an old hand. She's reliable. I think she's with Fallon Henley now as well.
Nice.
And Fallon Henley is also very, very, well, relatively experienced in NXT. So you got all those who could fit into the, you know, mid-card division. I'd love to see Kalani Jordan versus Jasmine Nix for the title. That would be great. But the beauty of it is you've also got the potential for some main roster talent to go down and challenge for that title. We've had Mi Chin a few times in NXT recently.
Yeah.
She's been working her ass off recently. She's been NXT. She's been in SmackDown. She had an amazing street fight with Jada Parker, and we'll talk about her in a minute. She's in that ladder match, bumping all over the place. She's really putting the work in, and I'd like someone like Mi Chin to get her flowers at some point. Maybe if they do like a main roster mid-card women's title. I could see someone like Mi Chin, you know, being like near the top of that division.
Yeah.
And then we have Jada Parker, Miss Parker. Again, someone who kind of just came in out of nowhere and was aligned with OTM and Scripps before he was released. And I wasn't really that hot on the faction OTM.
It did seem a little thrown together.
Yeah, and I think the two guys, the tag team, they're fine, but nothing really kind of stood out about them.
Yeah.
And then they had that feud with the family, Tony D. And we love Tony D and we love the family.
Yeah, I think they're my favourite on NXT.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure whether it would translate to the main roster, but I really hope it does. But one of the reasons I love the family, sorry, just talk about the family for a bit, is that whenever somebody gets released from NXT, they kill them off storyline wise and the family. Like, do you remember when Pretty Deadly got called up?
Yeah.
And the family just threw him over a bridge.
Yep.
And then they turned up like, yes, boy, the next week on SmackDown. And I think, was it Drew Gulak? He got released because, by all accounts, he wasn't a very nice person. And they did a storyline where New Catch Republic paid the family to kill him.
Yeah.
It's just cartoon stuff, isn't it? But I think I don't mind the kind of goofiness in wrestling. Very Simon Miller philosophy.
Yeah, I mean it's not overly fantastical.
No,
but yeah,
we've definitely seen worse.
Yeah,
we've seen Alexa Bliss hypnotize people. Which let's not talk about that again. But yeah, the family and OTM had a feud, and the family have got Rizzo, the female in the group for Tony D's advisor. Anna Kiefer, I think her name is. Now, I don't know where she came from, but first of all, her New York accent is fantastic, and she's not from New York. I don't think Tony D is either.
Yeah.
I think they're both putting on the accent very, very well.
Yeah, really good.
But yeah, Rizzo and Jada Parker had a match together, and it was basically, I think it was both their first matches on NXT.
Right.
And I thought, oh, this could be bad, because usually you have like new person with experienced person. And I watched it, and I was like, it was actually, for what it was really good. Like, you would not believe that they were both brand new to this. And then Jada Parker, she's kind of just gone up and up and up and up and up, and she's having banger matches with everyone, with Michin, with Kalani Jordan, you know. And again, very young, very inexperienced, but the potential for these women in NXT is frightening if they can be used correctly going forward, handled on the main roster, etc.
Yeah.
I think someone like Jada Parker will be fine, because she's got a lot of charisma, a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think it's, as long as they're like drip fed in, like they sort of have been, then they've all got really good potential.
Yeah, and I think on that topic, I think you look at Kiana James and Blair Davenport, who were called up, not really done anything so far. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Kiana James. I think she's one of those, like a Zoe Stark, like a hard-hitting, you know, bumps a lot, won't pull any punches, makes everything look like it hurts. So I'm hoping that there's something lined up for people like Kiana James, and Blair Davenport we know is great anyway. But with all these women, again, like the main roster, we need to balance the potential and inexperience with some experience. And boy, do we have some experience on the way for these women.
Oh, yes.
So, if the stories are to be believed, which I think by now they probably are, we are expecting Julia. We are expecting Stephanie Vaquer, who has recently left CMLL, who was recently featured on Forbidden Door against Mercedes Moné. And we're also expecting Delta from Riot City Wrestling in Australia. Now, Julia I'd heard of way back. I think Julia is a very kind of popular name in the world of women's wrestling. And, you know, I've seen some of her work from Japan. And if you know anything about women's wrestling in Japan, what they do looks like it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
It's a very intense style of wrestling. And it's very impressive to watch. And it's a style that whenever you see clips of it, no matter who it is, it looks awesome. They take women's wrestling very seriously over there. And Julia, multiple-time champion over there. And been one to watch for a long time. And she was actually at Stand and Deliver in the crowd as well. So she's coming in. Stephanie Vaquer, very similar style. Very aggressive. Again, different part of the world, in Mexico. I think she's from Chile, but she wrestled in Mexico. Very hard hitting, as we saw. I actually thought she was the better of the dance partners against Mercedes Moné, as great as Mercedes is. And then we have Delta, who I'm not that familiar with. I have watched a couple of matches on YouTube, and again, she looks in that mold of very physical. Also very experienced, been around a long time. Now, if we assume that these three ladies are going to all come to NXT, that's going to create a very unique dynamic of the very experienced and this very aggressive style versus the very inexperienced and this kind of athletics gymnastic style. So you can imagine, you know, for example, Kronus, what are your thoughts on something like Sol Ruka versus Julia?
As you say, it's an interesting clash.
It piques the curiosity, doesn't it?
It does. I do want to see what happens. Definitely.
And I think that one of those, probably Julia, is going to be gunning straight for Roxanne Perez.
Yeah, you'd expect so.
Yeah, and I expect one of, if not both, all of them to have very long title reigns, like an Asuka title reign.
Yeah.
Probably Julia, I would say, out of the three, she seems to be the most high profile that they're bringing in and the most anticipated. So I could definitely see it where Julia comes in, have a feud with Roxanne, Julia wins the title, Roxanne gets called up, and Julia just dominates for a long time. And that might be why they brought in a mid-card title, potentially.
Yeah.
Because
That does make sense.
they know that title is going to be on lockdown for a long time. I mean, that's why they brought in the World Heavyweight Championship on Raw, isn't it? Because Roman ain't losing. But yeah, I'm excited. I don't know when any of those are coming in. Julia has an announcement tomorrow, apparently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I think it's going to be some kind of roadmap. So final dates with Marigold, any other dates she has to tidy up, and then ready for NXT. I think probably in August sometime. So I think it's probably going to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think I heard it was sooner than Marigold were expecting as well.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well, I mean, you know, it's my favorite women's division, so adding that level of talent and, you know, that caliber of superstar, especially with the dynamics it's going to create, I'm really excited.
Yeah, the only way is up for the NXT Women's division.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what they're doing with I don't know if they're going to kind of bring in any kind of male equivalents. I don't think there's been any kind of rumors on big signings on the men's side.
Oh, I've certainly not heard anything.
But if we talk about the tag team side of things, and I think this has been a theme. This is our third video deep dives. We've done A.I.W, we've done WWE, now we're doing NXT. And it's the third time where I'm kind of like, the tag team division ain't that great.
No. It's upsetting again, really.
Yeah, and I will say that Nathan Fraser and Axiom are awesome.
Yeah.
Very good tag team. Love them as characters. As long as Nathan Fraser doesn't do his talk show anymore, please. That was awful.
Stop that.
Not everything's going to be a hit, Sean. It's fine. We forgive you. But yeah, Nathan Fraser and Axiom, Fraxium, I think as they're called on social media. Yeah, fantastic. So much energy, pace, technique, really fun to watch. And then you look outside of that, tag teams in NXT, Chase U, love Chase U. I'm a big fan of Duke Hudson. Would love to see him go on a singles run. Then where does that leave Mr. Chase? And then who else have we got really kind of pushing? We've got Gallus. Not really a fan of Gallus. The family, yeah.
From Tony and Stax to Stax and Crucifino.
Yeah, Stax and Crucifino, not really sold on. Crucifino is a bit of an unknown quantity in the ring.
Yeah.
And as much as I did like Stax and Tony was always going to be a singles guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
OTM, again, don't really
Quite
do
green.
it for me. Yeah, quite green, very green. And I like Hank and Tank. I think they're great, but they're not, I don't think they're presented as serious threats to the tag division. There's rumors of Motor City Machine Guns coming in. I'm not too familiar with them, but I've heard they're great. I've heard they've been around for a very long time. And they could be on their final run. The rumor is they're heading to WWE. I don't know whether it's going to be main roster or NXT. But if it is NXT, what do you make of that move?
I think they'd be maybe appreciated a bit more in NXT.
Yeah.
Because of their style. I've watched them quite a lot in old TNA. And they were fantastic. I haven't seen them much recently. But both really high energy, charismatic, really great team. I think NXT fan base would enjoy that.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Again, I think every tag team division at the moment needs some kind of shot in the arm, and there aren't really that many tag teams. I don't know what's happened to tag team wrestling. I really don't. I mean, we've got our SummerSlam predictions coming up this week, and there's not a tag title match on the show.
No.
Johnny Gargano's from Cleveland. It's a hometown boy. And he's defending the titles on SmackDown against Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. Don't know what we're doing.
Well, I guess they can lose them safely.
Oh, God. I think we're going to include that match in our predictions. Why not? It's a title match.
It should be on there. God damn it.
Yeah. But tag team wrestling, I think, as a whole, is struggling at the moment. I don't know why. I think I said last time that the excuse I give AEW is that they've got a trios division as well, which waters down both divisions.
Yeah.
But NXT, I mean, we've got the Rascals doing the TNA crossover, but how long is that going to be for? You don't want to start throwing teams together. We just don't see that much tag team wrestling anymore. I don't know whether is it fading away entirely? I don't know.
I hope.
No, because it's a staple.
Yeah, it's an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
Inside an art form.
But a lot of the great tag teams are approaching the end of their careers now, aren't they? You look at FTR, the Hardy Boys. Obviously, a lot of retired. The Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian are doing their own things.
Yeah.
And we've had upstart tag teams that have shown real promise, like the Acclaimed, and then they kind of just fell off after kind of being hot for a bit.
Yeah.
The Bucks, they're not getting any younger. But yeah, tag team wrestling is in a sad place for me at the moment. Thankfully,
certainly in a trough.
Yeah, thankfully Fraser and Axiom are they're going to go for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're basically going to carry the division at the moment. And as for main roster tag team, well, less said about that, the better in terms of the booking of it. There's no stories. It's just, here's a gauntlet match. Whoever wins can defend it on the SmackDown before the pay-per-view. I mean, give me a break. Yay. And then we'll have R-Truth hold it for 6 months before losing it to the Judgment Day. So, wow, really original.
Classic.
Any extra thoughts you've got on NXT? Anything you want to say to Chef Shawn Michaels?
Nothing more than just keep cooking.
Yeah, I would say keep doing what you're doing. For my personal taste, I think it's great. I know NXT is not for everyone. I described it as the Marmite of pro wrestling in the intro. Yeah. And then I realized that people don't know what Marmite is, so I have explained it. But yeah, you either love NXT or you hate it. They got a new TV deal coming up soon. I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So they're going on to the CW. I don't know what that is. But apparently it's a good thing. And I think the main thing for us is I think it's moving out of the Performance Center.
Oh, yeah. On the road again.
On the road again. Yeah. I think when the TV deal starts, I think October 1st, I think it starts. So I think once the TV deal starts, they'll start kind of, I don't know whether it'll be on the road or a new permanent residence. I mean, I'm happy with Full Sail University, to be honest. But yeah, back where Black and Gold was. But yeah, lots to be excited about for NXT. I think they've got great champions. I think they've got a great future. The talent pool seems to just be like a conveyor belt of just crazy talent in all divisions apart from the tag team division. And I don't think they've announced the next pay-per-view yet, although we do have Great American Bash this week and next week. But yeah, we will see where NXT goes. AI Jeff, he has written a song about Shawn Michaels because he likes writing songs. So Kronus, I'm going to make sure that you can see/hear this wonderful song. And we are going to leave you with this song called HBK. Take it away, Jeff.
Oh boy, Shawn Michaels, he's just a sexy general manager. He's got the moves, he's got the flair. Shawn Michaels, the man with the chair. From the Heartbreak Kid to NXT's top boss, he's got the magic touch, no need for a coin toss. He struts down the ramp, shades on his face, creative genius set in the pace. NXT Europe, yeah, that's his game. Building bridges, worldwide fame. Shawn Michaels, HBK, oh, he's the one running NXT, getting it done. From the mat to the boardroom, he's the king. Turns every challenge into a wrestling no doubt. When the game was down, he stepped up, no pout. From women's inclusion to creative delight, Shawn's the man who makes NXT ignite. NXT 2.0, what a shit show. When things got king, HBK stood up, and did he fix the motherfucking problem? Shawn Michaels, HBK, he's the one running NXT, getting it done. From the mat to the boardroom, he's the king. Turns every challenge into a wrestling fling. So raise the titles high, let the crowd cheer for Shawn Michaels, the legend we revere. NXT's heartbeat, the showstopper supreme. He's the reason we chant, this is our dream.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was delightful as always.
Very good.
Yeah, one of his best ones. Oh, I did like his finisher one. But Jeff there with an advert and a song this week. So his next involvement will be his SummerSlam predictions, which is coming later on this week. Yeah, so we will be predicting 7 matches. Maybe we'll make it 8 or 9 because there's the women's tag match on SmackDown as well. Don't get me started. So we will be back later on this week with our SummerSlam predictions. I'm sure Jeff will have another commercial, maybe a song about SummerSlam. But until then, guys, we will see you on the next episode.
Take care.